13th of October, Rabbi Furst, Pierke, Avos. Yes, I'm recording.
Okay.
Thank you for the
Morning, Mr.
reminder.
Rabbi Furst here at Yeshivat Samanavshi here on Yerushalayim Care of Zoom. We are currently learning about the importance of we'll see the importance of davening in a minyan and the difference between davening by a person by himself and with the help of a minyan and or not, and how that affects our davening. We'll see in some other things as well, as far as we're talking about the Aramaic. And I'll be sending this out as an email in a moment. And also we'll have it on the screen, hopefully simultaneously. It'll be on your screen. That's number one. Before that, let's do this. Okay, I'm going to send this out now. Get it. Should get it in your email in a moment or two, depending how long the satellites to work. Okay. Hopefully, if the satellites do their job, it'll be coming into you any moment. Just by the way, we all realized that we started saying Tal Matar Levracha this this morning.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Thank you for the reminder.
Yeah, right. So remember to say that. We've been getting a little bit of rain, which is great.
Okay, I got it.
Okay, very good. I'm going to put on the screen in a moment. Here we go. Okay. Okay, it should have come in, and you should have one on your screen now as well. We're starting with the this is Gemara Shabbos that we mentioned a few times the last day or two. Okay, yes, who would like to begin to read?
I'm just getting it printed out now.
Okay, fine. This is again the Gemara in Shabbos.
Okay, I have it.
Which is the basis for out of our discussion.
So you want me to start at the very top?
Yes, please, go ahead.
V'ha'amar Rav Yehuda. Rav Yehuda says, Le'olam el yish'al Adam.
Al yish'al.
Al yish'al Adam. Always a person should ask.
Right, a person should. Al means not. A person should never ask Sarchov. Right, a person should never.
A person should never ask Sarchav Lashon Armi. You should never ask for his needs with an expression of Armi. I don't know what Armi is.
Well, or Belashon Arami in the language of Aramaic.
Oh, Aramaic.
Arami is Aramaic.
Never ask for your needs in Aramaic.
Right.
How do you know you're speaking Aramaic or reading Aramaic?
Sounds
different or what?
That's a good question. It's very similar. It's very similar to Lashon HaKodesh.
The words end in Aleph. You probably
there-
say Aramaic.
Yeah, there are differences between the masculine and feminine, being the hays and the olives, and there are some other numerical changes. There are some basic grammatical differences between the two. There are a lot of words that are obviously not Hebrew words, but again, unless you're sensitive, you won't necessarily know. You're right. You may not necessarily know the difference. It's hard to say. Like, how do you know if one diamond is a good diamond or another is not such a good diamond? Unless you know something about diamonds, you don't know. You'll never really know. It's true. It's not so easy to know the difference between the two. Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yochanan, in the time of the Amoraim, so they clearly knew, because they basically Aramaic was the spoken language, so that's how they spoke. But when they prayed, they should pray in Hebrew. We'll see further.
Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Kol she'alos tzarchav b'lashon Arami ein melachai ha-shares nizkakin lo. So Rabbi Yochanan says that all requests that for his needs in Aramaic, the ministering angels do not zakakin for him. What's zakakin?
They're not literally, they're not like attached to. They're not attached to him, meaning they're not paying attention to him. So anyone, he says, call anyone who asks his needs in Lashon Arami, the Malachi Asherus are not helping him. The Malachi Asherus will not help him.
She'ein melachei hasharesh mechirin b'lashon Arami. That the ministering angels don't understand, marichin, understand?
Recognize.
They don't recognize Aramaic. Recognize meaning that they don't honor it, or meaning that they don't know it exists?
They don't. Let's put it this: they don't understand it. Okay, we'll try. We're going to go into some of the details what that means exactly. But right now, let's say they don't understand it.
Okay. Shani chola.
Shiny choila. A choila is different, meaning a choila can ask for his needs in any language, even Aramaic.
Okay, it's different for a chola, for a sick person. The Shekhinah imo, that the divine presence is with him.
Right.
Le'olam al.
Okay, so let's say any questions on this is the basic Gemara. Any questions on the Gemara?
We pretty much have covered all this stuff, I think, already.
Okay, very good. Okay, so now this is now this next paragraph is the base of Bechir of the Meiri. His commentary is a Rishon, and his commentary on that Gemara in Shabbat.
Okay, le'olam al yishal adam tzarichiv lashon Arami. So a person should never ask for his needs in Aramaic. She mitoch she'ein halashon shegur, that mitoch is within,
Since. Mitoch means in this case,
since that it's not a language that is gur. What is gur?
Sugar, sugar, this is a phrase, sugar befi habrios. Sugar befi is in the mouth, habrios of people. Haloshin, shena haloshin, meaning the language is not well known, is not usually spoken by people. In English, you would say that the language is not usually spoken by people, right?
Okay, so I thought we said that Aramaic was the common language.
Well, so that's gonna depend on the time and place. That's gonna be part of the discussion here. It depends on the time and place. Obviously, like Yiddish in Central Europe was a very common language. In America, it's less common. In Eretz Israel, it might be even less common than in America, right? So it all depends on the time and place.
Ein hakona,
Hakavana, ein hakavana.
ein hakavana, mitzvah bidvar av ad shetehe tefilaso mikol balat mikubelet. So he doesn't acquire a mitzvah.
No, it's much. It's ein hakavana matzui b'divorav. It's all together. Since Aramaic is not a language which is well known to people, the kavana of the words is not found in what he's saying, that his prayer should be mukubelet, meaning since the words that he's saying are not known to him, he doesn't have kavana for what the words mean, and therefore, since he doesn't have kavana for what the words mean, that his prayer is not going to be received.
Mikubelet, received.
Right, or accepted. Maybe better accepted. His prayers won't be accepted if you're just simply saying words which you yourself don't know what they mean. So it's very difficult for such a prayer like that to be acceptable, because you don't even know yourself. You don't know yourself what you're saying.
So that's the case for say that in say English or your native tongue.
That's right, and to a certain extent, a person should definitely pray in his native tongue. That's right. Now Lashon HaKodesh, Hebrew has a special advantage, because in certain cases, even if a person doesn't know what the Lashon HaKodesh means, nevertheless the prayers is still acceptable, because that's a special advantage of Lashon HaKodesh, of Hebrew. But other languages don't share that advantage.
ומכל מקום, כל לעניין חולה, מתוך שאדם מכוון תפילתו, and nevertheless, all matters of regarding a sick person that a man intends with his prayer, biyoter ein bezeh, more so, not in this case, base
Mikush. Right. So he's saying like this, that even though that Aramaic, since it's not a common language that people understand readily, Therefore, when they're praying in Aramaic, they don't have the proper understanding of the words that they're saying. So therefore, it makes it much more difficult for the prayer to be acceptable and received and answered. Nevertheless, when it comes to a choila, if a choila, even if he's davening in Aramaic, which is a lashon he may not really understand very well, but since he's under a great strain, he's mechavin betfila biyoser, since the earnestness of his prayers are very strong, even though he may not be saying the words that he understands very readily. Nevertheless, that'll give a, we won't have to be concerned that he's davening in Aramaic.
Uh-huh. So in other words, he knows what he's asking for, even though the words that he's saying are not resonating in his mind, but what's resonating in his mind is the seriousness of what he's asking for, that he wants to be healed.
Right. So it has more. So that earnestness that he has makes up for the lack of actual knowledge of what he's saying.
So why do we have Uva Letzion right in the sitter,
Right.
where we have to say it? What? Why is it there? We don't know what we're saying.
Well,
Or why not put that into Hebrew?
there are reasons why certain prayers are in Aramaic, but that's a good question. We can't really answer that question yet. Maybe we'll be able to answer that question eventually. Hold on to the question, but we have to understand why at certain points, as you're asking, they were interjecting Aramaic into various, and the Kaddish, also the Kaddish is Aramaic as well, right? So, right. So we'll have to wait for that answer that question. Hold on.
Okay.
Mhm. But don't forget to ask it if we don't answer it sooner or later.
Okay.
Can I interject?
Sure.
One quick comment. Maybe it's just as we said before, a direct line to Hashem, sort of bypassing the malachim. So I don't know if that's true. But
So that, but yeah, but I get right. That's if it's simply, it depends on the perspective that you're taking. If you're taking a perspective that the malachim, they're not gonna pay attention to it, so it's gonna bypass them, right? So that's okay. But if you're taking the perspective that the prayer to reach HaKadosh Baruch Hu needs to be a prayer which has some type of understanding behind it, so then the question, that's the point of view from Barry's question.
okay, because if you're saying Kaddish for a particular person, maybe his neshama wouldn't understand it either. Okay, I don't know.
Yeah, we have to work.
Okay, no problem.
We have to work on it. Don't worry. That part of what you're saying will be eventually one of the answers we'll get to. Hold on.
Okay, great.
Ein bezeh, there is not in this base michush. What is michush?
Base michush is to be concerned. There's no concern. So when it comes to a chayla, since the earnestness of his prayers is evident from his situation, right? There's not to be concerned that he's going to say a prayer in Aramaic in a way, in a language he doesn't really understand fully.
V'chein
Ein
kasvu.
base mikush basically means there's not to be any concern.
Right. V'chein kasvu hagionim b'tefilas hatzibor shehu b'chol lashon matam zeh. So, and therefore, it is written by the Gaonim, the geniuses,
Well, going in with those that was the period of time between the Amoraim and the Rishonim. There was a tikufa of, say, I think about 200 years or so of the Gaonim that they lived in basically in Chutz La'aretz and Spain and Babylon, Persia, and the transition time between the time of the Amoraim and the Rishonim was given over to the Gaonim.
So that's like around the year 800 to the year 1000.
Something like that, yeah.
Okay, so it's written by the Gaonim that the prayer, the congregational prayer, that it is all in the language of mitam. Mitam is the reason.
Because Tefillah b'tziba shu b'kol lashon. Tefillah b'tziba can be in any language, right?
Right.
Ideally, it's in Hebrew, Lashon HaKodesh, but it can really, Tefillah b'tziba can really be in any language. Why?
Because zeh shehatzibur shechina imahem. Because when you have the tzibur, the divine presence is with them. Ratzalomar,
That means to say, right?
that is to say, shechonasan mitzui ha rabah.
The kavanah, their concentration,
Their concentration is found great.
is matsui harbi is more common. It's more prevalent. Concentration that you find in a congregational setting is more prevalent than when a person is not in a congregational setting. We hope so, at least.
I would think Adarabba. When you're with a congregation, you have lots of distractions.
Well, yeah, but you're supposed to you're supposed to do things which try and limit the effect of those distractions. It's right, it's true, but
Isn't that why we are a talit over our head? So we're sort of not distractible.
right. That's number one. That's one thing. We do many things in the course of the davening and our preparations for davening. We do many things to try and limit the distractions. Also, a person's supposed to have a makom kavua. He's supposed to daven in the same place in shul, because that way he's not distracted by new environments. Every time he comes into shul, he goes into his same place, and he's very familiar with all the basic surroundings that are there, and there won't have any distractions that'll interrupt his concentration in his prayers. And also, a person's not supposed to daven with a mirror adjacent to him, or a window that he can see his reflection adjacent to him, or you're not supposed to be walking in front of a person who's davening, right? Not all these things, not supposed to sit in front of a person that's davening. All these things are in general, rules and regulations which are designed to aid the concentration that we should have for our prayers. So ideally, davening with the minyan should increase a person's concentration. right? That's the goal, right? Goal is by davening with a minyan, it's an aid to your concentration. But again, that all depends on the type of person that the person is and the type of minyan that he's davening in, right?
I don't know. That's hard for me to hear. I mean, there's the people collecting money that come by, jingling the coins in their hand.
Right.
You're
And
right about that.
people are walking, every direction. Some people are davening loudly. I don't know. What's the other side of the coin? What is it that makes it help you?
Well, simply being with a keyboard, the prayers of a congregation are always answered. They're never turned down entirely, right? That the prayers of a tzibur are always going to be answered in some way or another. Whereas in a person on his own, there's no guarantee that his prayers will be answered. It's number one. And this also answers part of Barry's question that since you're davening in a tzibur, so you can daven in Aramaic, right? In Aramaic, within a congregational setting, you can, in fact,
Mhm.
daven in. So the Kaddish and the Volatzion, those things can be said and recited and prayed in foreign languages because it's in a congregational setting.
I hear. But also, I mean, that's the fact that you have a very varied personalities and sounds and languages and customs and all that in the shul among even 10 people is that's part of the test that you have to they're all our brothers, so
Right. It's sometimes it's challenging. Sometimes it can be can actually be absolutely distracting. There's no question about it sometimes. Nevertheless, since that's what we're required to do, we have to try and work at it. We have to try and filter out all the distractions. Again, it's not such an easy job. Sometimes, look, a person can have distractions in the house too. There can be little kids running around. There can be birds chirping. There can be dogs barking. A person ringing the doorbell asking for tzedakah. The house is no guarantee that you're not going to be disturbed. The phone can ring, right? The toast could be burning in the toaster oven.
your wife starts talking to you.
Domestic bliss.
No, but in shul, that's part of what Hashem wants us to do. He wants us to have Rahmanas on everybody around us.
Yeah. And one of the,
Yeah.
go ahead. Go ahead, Barry.
No,
Go ahead.
no, I'm just saying, even if the person is davening his heart out and he's saying every word and he has kavanah, etc., but he's annoyed and feels negative about his minyan, so that's not good. He's not getting anywhere.
Right.
I think Hashem, it's more important to Hashem, the way I look at it, is that we feel for our brothers.
Yeah.
They have problems, whatever, it's not only,
What if you're not on that madrega?
Well, look, it's written in most of the Siddurim. I'm not sure. You can check your art scroll. I'm not sure. At the very beginning of the Siddur, they bring down a kavanah. That a person's supposed to have kavanah when he's entering the base Knesset. He's intending to fulfill the mitzvah of L'Ahavta L'Recha Kamocha. Right. That's one of the, and I think it's written in most Siddurim that, as I said, when a person enters the base Knesset, he's supposed to have that specific kavanah that he's intending to fulfill the mitzvah of L'Ahavta L'Recha Kamocha, which is that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be davening when you're going to daven and actually pray that you're going to have in mind to pray for other people. That's certainly included, but also that you're not going to step on people's toes when you come into shul. You're not going to daven too loudly to disturb them. You're not going to talk to your neighbor in the middle of the davening and disturb people. You're not even going to daven too long and have people have to wait for you to finish your davening a half an hour after everyone's gone home. And that's part of the mitzvah b'rafta v'chakamocha. And it's a tremendous opportunity when you come to shul, right? So it's really a tremendous opportunity that that you have. It actually, yeah, it says here in my city, at least it's not an art scroll, but just before the Ma Tovu Elohecha Yaakov, right? You have there is a small little one-liner. Harni Makabalai Mitzvah Asay Sha'atareka Kamocha. Right?
When a person's if you're in shul and you see a person come in and he's got two crutches or two canes or he's bent over, whatever, he's got an arm missing. I mean, there's all kinds of, he's a war veteran, etc. So right away we feel rachmanas for them. Oh, he's hurting, he's bent over, he's sick, he's whatever. But there's also people who have emotional injuries, psychological injuries, and they're just as much wounded as the physical person.
Right.
So we have to have rachmanas on them.
You're right. You have to try and be patient with them. You have to, even though they might be disturbing you, and they may not be. Sometimes they may not have so much derech eretz and be so polite themselves. You try and smile with them and try and deal with them. I just had a discussion with someone in my minyan on Shabbos because there's somebody here in the yeshivas. He showed up around about a month ago. He's an unmarried person, maybe in his early 20s or so, and you can see in the way he talks and his mannerisms and what he discusses with people that he certainly has some type of problem. I'm not sure. I'm not an expert in emotional and psychological situations. I don't know what his exact opinion is, but so because basically he comes up to a person, he asks him the same question. You've met him 17 times already. He starts his conversation off in the same way, asking the same questions as if you'd never met each other before. And so lately he's been coming around and asking for people for money in the yeshiva, and when in the middle of interrupting people when they're learning and things like this. So I was a little bit sharp with him. Because I asked him previously, where does he come from and where is he living? And he's living in the neighborhood. He's living with his parents. So I asked him. I said, why don't you ask your father for money? You want money? Why don't you ask your father for money? He'll provide for you, right? That you don't have to ask people for money here in the yeshiva. Ask your father for money, and he'll provide for you. And I said, where do you live? And let me talk to your father. If there's not, I'll speak to him about it. And he says, so I felt that I was a little bit harsh with him. That in the way I was talking, it was a little bit not
Sharp.
exactly cold, but
Sharp.
a little bit sharp with him. Because I was doing it purposely because I wanted him to get the picture that, it's not really a proper thing to do, that people are in the middle of their learning and coming around, especially as parents, and he shouldn't be asking people for money and things like this. So I felt I was a little bit too akzari, a little bit too cruel with him, because obviously he has some type of disability in one way or the other. But so I spoke to someone about it, and he said, no, it's actually not, because sometimes you have to. It's what I don't know what they in the secular world they call it. What do they call it? I forgot what they call the expression, but yep.
Tough love.
Oh, that's it. Barry. That's tough love,
Tough
right?
love.
Tough love, that's right. Have to be tough love. So sometimes it's actually beneficial for the person
Yeah.
rather than being. But again, you have to be careful how you use it and what you say, and then not to put the person into a situation where he's embarrassed or feels.
Yeah. You can be
What was his reaction?
you can be tough on a person, but if they know you love them, they'll accept it.
Right, right.
But you could
So
say the same thing to someone else, but and if he feels that you don't like him, his back is going to go up. The same words.
right, yeah, sure. No, you never know how. So he's going to ask, how did this person react? You just asked Roy, how did he react? What was his reaction?
Yeah.
So he was a little bit. He was sort of afraid that I was actually going to talk to. I would actually talk to his parents about it if I knew his parents. What I would talk to his parents about it because it's. I don't think it reflects very nicely upon them that their son is begging for money in the yeshiva. But he was a little bit afraid that I would actually go ahead and do that, and so he sort of said, please don't do that. So in any event, um, I don't know if he really got the message. Maybe I should have just told him straight that you're not supposed to be. There's two things here. First, if he's not supposed to be interrupting people during their learning to ask people for money. That's number one. And number two, he has parents. He has no right to really to ask money from other people. I don't think it is. I'm sure if the parents are living in this neighborhood close to the yeshiva, it's not a poverty-stricken neighborhood. I'm not saying they're the most rich people in the neighborhood, but if they're living in this neighborhood, I'm sure they have little, 5, 10 shekels to give him every other day or something like that for some spending money to buy a Coca-Cola or a piece of cake or something like that. So, and I'm sure they wouldn't be happy knowing that their son is actually, snoring money from people. But any event, so yeah, there are a lot of distractions, and when you come to shul, as I said, you have to fulfill that mitzvah. There was another situation that was in shul that Moitzi Shabbos. There's a fellow that he doesn't start his Shmon Esrei until everybody's almost finished, and then he spends another 20 minutes after everyone's gone still davening his Shmon Esrei. So you're not supposed to walk in front of a person like that. Unless if he's in an aisle or something like that, they actually say the person's considered to be like the poskim use an expression. He's like a mace b'rishus harabim. If a person was buried inadvertently in the middle of a rishus harabim, so you have to take out the body, exhume the body, and bury him someplace else. So the poskim say if a person parked himself in his Shmon Esrei in the middle of the aisle, so you can actually go ahead and pick him up and carry him off to someplace else, and just get him out of the way. So, anyway, so this Motzi Shabbos, this fellow who likes to daven along Shmon Esrei, decided to daven behind me. So I was stuck, and another person was stuck waiting for this guy about 15 minutes after the whole minyan had finished for my Motzi Shabbos. So when he was done, I told him, it's not right. I said, you have to daven up front. So he said, no, he doesn't want to walk in front of people that are, you hear this, he doesn't want to walk in front of other people who are davening Shmon Esrei, right? So therefore he davens in the back of the shul. So everybody should walk in front of him when he's davening his Shmon Esrei, right? So
Yeah, not fair.
yeah. So you get
And
all kinds.
he's probably keeping one of the Gebayim there who wants to lock up the shul.
He usually
That's
comes
another
late. He usually comes later. No, the shul usually stays open. That's not just that wouldn't be such a problem. And that's not bad. People sit there and they're learning usually after the davening, but they're learning anyway. But so he's probably not a problem with the gabbai. But you get all kinds of people. And I ran into another person yesterday that I was learning in a certain place, and so I and my chavrusa were learning. And this fellow, he was a couple of his tables behind me. He was preparing some food to eat for breakfast. So I something caught my eye once, and then it caught my eye again. And then third time it caught my eye. The guy was throwing. He was peeling. He was cutting open an avocado, right? So he was taking the peels and the pit from the avocado and throwing it out the window, right?
Oy.
So I said, you're getting the property messy. You're making a garbage dump out of the property. He says, no, I'm feeding the birds.
I saw a bird one time eat an avocado pit.
Yeah, I'm sure I do. I told him, I said, the birds know how to, I told him, if you put it into the garbage, the birds know how to pick the food out of the garbage very well. They're very well. I don't think any birds, Mayor, you see a lot of birds. They looks like they're scrawny birds, Mayor, by you?
Most of them are those crows. They're actually pretty big, but they do go into the garbage and pick at the food.
Yeah,
But I bet you they don't eat avocado pits.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah, they like fly. I think they like meat. They like meat and fish.
And they're not going to eat the avocado peel either.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, once, this was actually several weeks ago, right on Paran, a small kitten was killed. And you're right.
Oy.
The
Oy, oy, oy.
birds pecked at the body of the kitten
Yeah.
until there was no more kitten left. I don't know what
Wow.
happened.
That's what Kaddish Baruch in his wisdom, he creates this whole the whole food chain is based upon the keeping the environment clean. That, you know, if you spend time looking at all these things, if you wouldn't have birds like vultures and these crows, which are these type of birds that feed on carcasses, then all these carcasses would be lying around and would be a health hazard. This way, he has a natural, Kaddish Baruch creates a natural chain of predators to clean these things up. Also, with the predatory animals, that they look and they see the weak ones, the diseased animals that they're usually lagging behind the herd or whatever, and they finish them off. So that's a Kaddish Baruch Hu's wisdom in creating all different types of animals with different types of appetites and diets. So
I hear.
Well, I wanted to ask, before we finish, I just wanted to ask one more question. You were just saying that with the minyan, you could pray in Aramaic.
right.
What about English? If English is your native language,
Right.
why don't we say you can pray in English?
Right. So in terms of the actual congregation, it's in terms of customs, okay? In terms of customs, it's not really acceptable to change the custom of davening in Hebrew to davening in a foreign language, right? But in theory, according to the law, there's really nothing wrong with it, right? In terms of customs, that we don't want to deviate from the customs of our forefathers that they davened in Hebrew, so we maintain the standard prayer to be in Hebrew. But really, according to the law, any language which is known by the congregation would be acceptable to daven in Hebrew. So that would in that language that they know. So that would make a big difference if, let's say, a person's he's doing kiruv and he's dealing with a lot of people that they only know English or something like that. There'd be nothing wrong with having a prayer service in a language which consisted of certain parts that would be also in English, according to the letter of the law. Even benching it. Benching could be said if a person doesn't know what he's saying in Hebrew. If he can read Hebrew, it's an advantage to say the words in Hebrew, even if he doesn't know what he's saying. But I mean, now we have translinear, and we have translations of what you're saying, transliterations of what you're saying. So that's best. But if a person, if all else fails, and the person doesn't know what he's saying and doesn't have a knowledge or ability say he can't speak Hebrew. He doesn't know he doesn't recognize the letters, so he can mention English as well. It's also good. They're not. It's not so 100% because how do you when you say the word G-D, that's not necessarily the equivalent meaning of a Kadosh Baruch Hu, of a Hashem, or a Lashon Elokim, right? You say Hakel, meaning the Almighty. So it approximates what it means in Hebrew, but it's not really a full translation, not really an accurate translation. So it doesn't meet all the requirements, but it's sufficient. We'll see. We'll see more about that as we continue on with this Mitzvah. Okay, so let's take a little break. Roy, we'll see you tomorrow, hopefully, Mitzvah.
Amen. Thank you very much, Rabbi Furst.
Quite welcome, and we'll start the Mr. Bruce here in a few moments. Take a short break.
Okay.
Thank you, Rabbi.
All right, thank you, Lou.